Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we get started, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. We give you the information, you do the research. Today's guest is the former CEO of Sprott Inc. with over 35 years of experience in the financial services industry. He is currently the chairperson of Argo Digital Gold. We're going to be talking about the macro for gold, a very interesting day. Today, we're going to be talking about the Argo platform and how that works. Very excited to welcome Peter Grosskopf to the show. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Yeah, before we hit record today, we were talking about how interesting of a day it was for gold, getting close to all-time highs once again. I'd like to get your thoughts there, and also any themes and trends you're currently watching in the gold sector that you think more investors should be paying attention to.
Well, I think the move today was as a result of the lower inflation numbers, giving people the view that the Fed now has room to pivot. That's been the overriding focus of the markets as of late. And it gives gold an excuse to shoot up. I think the long term is more important. I think what gold investors are watching is the debt and deficits, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that the U.S. is headed into some very choppy water.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on the broad market here as well, because as gold is climbing today, we're seeing the broad market down, particularly the Magnificent Seven, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, and the other related stocks in that group. What are your thoughts here on the broad market? Because we do hear about this shift coming from overvalued tech into the commodity space, into hard assets. And yet, whenever we see a correction like this in the broad market, it seems to recover and continue climbing to new all-time highs. What is it going to take for that shift to occur, in your view?
Yeah, we're starting to see signs of it now on a day like today. And there's no question the stock market has been quite heated. It's stretched valuation levels. I think the risks of a correction are growing. And with this focus, uber focus really on the massive high growth stocks, that correction could come at any time. I do think that kind of a correction helps gold, and some of that money would be attracted into a safer kind of safe harbor area like gold.
You also mentioned debt earlier. Howard Marks recently appeared on Bloomberg TV. He talked about the fact that the US government is acting like someone with a credit card that has no credit limit and the bill never comes. What is the end result of all this debt accumulation? We're approaching $35 trillion for the national debt in the US at the moment, I believe. That is just a hard number to even wrap your head around. What is the end result of all this fiscal mismanagement, and are the people in charge aware of what's going on in your view? How is this being allowed to happen?
I think they're very aware of it, but there's still no appetite for austerity. So every political party, almost globally, is talking about spending more and making government a bigger part of the economy. So I don't think it's going to change. I think they're very aware of it, and I think it's the biggest problem facing the markets now, and it's a problem for which gold has the answer. So the solution for them is financial repression. It's to keep interest rates low, real interest rates negative, and to run very hot growth numbers as much as they can. I think there's a huge difference in the inflation print, which we were shown today, and the cost of living increases that we're all facing, which we all know are closer to 5 to 10% per year than the government calculated number, which they give us on a day like today. So real real rates are close to zero already. And that's why in that kind of an environment where gold can protect your purchasing power.
I want to get your thoughts on the BRICS alliance and their potential impact on the gold market as well, because we've heard a lot of talk about a potential gold-backed currency being used to settle trade between member nations. We saw the US government freeze Russian FX assets, even talk about seizing some of that to then give to Ukraine. This is obviously putting a lot of countries on edge because they don't know if they're going to be the next in the US's crosshairs. How do you see that whole scenario playing out? Do you think we'll see those nations start to turn to gold more as a way to get outside of sanctions and outside of the US dollar?
I think they already are. I think other large central banks are already accumulating gold. It was the largest net buying influence on the market last year with central bank buying. I also think central banks are starting to trade assets like gold and oil together. So you're seeing more of a gold-backed influence in the central bank reserve asset picture, and I think that is going to accelerate. Other foreign players just don't want to be dictated to by the U.S. whether those sanctions or actions be right or wrong.
Well, you did touch on inflation earlier. I'm wondering where you're seeing that headed. I want to read a quote from King World News and get your thoughts. They said the next wave of inflation will wreak havoc in the interest rate markets and will also be yet another major catalyst in gold and silver prices heading higher. I've spoken to a few other people, Peter Schiff among them, who believes that inflation is going to reemerge in a vicious way. What are your thoughts for inflation and how it could impact the gold and silver markets up ahead?
Yeah, I don't think it ever went away myself, at least in terms of what I feel from my observations around the economy and the world and traveling, et cetera. So I do think we're going to see continued strong inflation. I think we're in a cycle now. I think it's psychological. I think that in general, people are aware that money purchasing power of fiat currencies is going down every year, and gold just has a phenomenal track record in offsetting that. And I think that as inflation reemerges, and it'll come in waves, it's non-predictable. Those waves will pressure rates once again. Whether or not we have the room to raise them is another question. Whether or not that matters, considering the size of our overall debts, is another question too.
Central bank buying. The Central Bank of Uzbekistan published data showing its gold reserves rose by 9 tons in June, bringing their total holdings to 365 tons. We continue to see central banks around the world accumulate, not just BRICS member nations, but other countries as well. Has this been a major driver behind the rise in the gold price this year, in your view? And do you expect it to continue and to continue to impact the gold market?
Yeah, I think what's important there is not Uzbekistan, but it's the percentage to which they're adding to their gold reserves. And it is important. It's happening in other countries like China that are much larger as well. And their citizens are buying gold pretty much as fast as they can, hence the Shanghai gold premium. So it very much matters. And I do expect it to continue.
Now, China has also been fairly aggressively selling off US Treasury. Some other nations are doing the same. I'm wondering if you think we're going to see a shift from US Treasuries being the preferred low-risk asset to gold taking that position on countries' balance sheets.
Yeah, I'll broaden that to saying, what about US Treasuries in the context of the 60-40 portfolio, where you're losing money in real dollar terms holding those bonds? Why would you continue to hold them? So it's not a surprise, especially given political concerns, for them to be dumping treasuries. And I think that many other investors will be having the same idea. Why hold the US long bonds at 4.2 when it's quite likely we're going to have inflation numbers that approach that or exceed that in years coming?
Yes, and as you mentioned, real inflation numbers are far higher than what's being reported. We can all see that when we go to a restaurant, go to the grocery store, etc. Let's shift the conversation to talking about digital gold, specifically Argo, how that platform works. Maybe you could give us an introduction.
Well, as you know, gold was primarily made available to the investing public through ETFs, and ETFs did a fantastic job providing a liquid option and a relatively safe option to own physical gold, cost effective, and it certainly lowered the cost of owning that gold. But it's not an ideal solution. The gold within ETFs are held within the security system, which is a regulated financial institution type of system. I think, and we think, many investors prefer to hold their gold directly outside of the financial system. What's being made available now is that through technological innovation, vaults around the globe that offer good delivery gold in a safe vault will be able to put that on a blockchain representation and offer it to investors digitally and fractionally. So it's the first chance for individuals to have direct vault ownership 24/7, direct to vault, where you can move it, have it physically backed, pick it up if you like. And that's all available on a very cost-effective basis now.
Now, I can already hear the people typing comments as you were speaking about if you don't hold it, you don't own it. What would you say to those who believe holding physical gold in your own possession is the only way to completely remove counterparty risk and ensure that the gold that you own is actually there?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think owning allocated gold is the only way to own gold. It has to be bankruptcy remote. It's the reason you're holding it in the first place, is to have a safe asset outside of the financial system. However, I don't think you need to own it in your own home. I think that qualified vaults are perfectly capable of ensuring, storing, safeguarding gold on behalf of individuals. So you just need to know it's there in your name, that you can pick it up, and that suffices. And the beauty of the technology now is you can do that with a click.
The Royal Canadian Mint, that is the vault that you're currently working with at the moment. Is there any plans to expand to vaults in other jurisdictions as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This system will be entirely global. I'm not sure exactly how you'll be able to transfer your gold from vault to vault, but it will work like a transfer or a token fee. And I imagine we're going to hook into vaults in Singapore, Zurich, London, and other key locations.
And if we look ahead 5 to 10 years, how do you see the digital gold market evolving? And how does Argo plan to participate in this evolution and help shape the market?
Yeah, we want to be on the leading edge of that. We're really excited about it. So the World Gold Council and others, large players in the gold business, are providing the backbone of technology. This has been a big project of theirs, and we intend to make full use of it. So once they've set up the network, I would expect the next stage will be tokenization. And once you get to tokenization, then you can envision other things. Like what we're trying to do with gold is make it a completely fungible collateral asset so that you can use it in any way you want, inside or outside of the financial system. So I think next things will be things like payments, like credit cards, like collateral, or being able to lend your gold at a profit. So useful applications for gold.
And I've spoken to some people in the gold industry who think that the whole crypto craze has kind of stolen gold's lunch in a sense, and that a lot of people who would normally be attracted to gold as an alternative to fiat currencies have instead reached out towards crypto. Do you think digital gold could kind of help bridge that gap in terms of potentially attracting that very often younger crowd who's interested in cryptocurrencies?
Absolutely. It hasn't happened yet, to be clear. One market is very different than the other. There's a big age gap, for instance. And those that are trading Bitcoin are mostly interested in the portability and the fact that it's completely limited in terms of supply. Those two markets they stand for the same thing philosophically, which is to escape the incessant printing of the fiat currency regime. And they should be able to talk to each other and be swapped and be traded. And we think eventually that there'll be a very strong market between the two. At Argo, we plan on being the first to be able to offer kind of an interoperability between them.
I was speaking to Alistair McLeod recently, and he says that, there is gold and then there is credit, and that the fiat system is based on credit, and that system is going to come to a close at some point. All fiat currencies go to zero. We hear this a lot. In such a scenario, obviously bartering with physical gold, physical silver is a challenge and could be a major challenge. First of all, do you see that scenario occurring where fiat currency goes to zero and gold is reintroduced as money at some point? And could a digital version of that, like Argo, help to facilitate barter and trade in that sort of scenario?
Well, I'm not an extremist. I don't see fiat currency going to zero. I see it losing value every year compared to goods and services. I do think that gold as money and gold in a scenario where it can become digitized will be an important part about having options. And so, what it might look like for households, for corporations, for others that have large cash balances is you're not just going to have your money in US dollars or other fiat currencies. You're going to select some options that provide you with some hedging as to the policies of a government who have overspent now for bordering on 30, 40 years. And you're going to, I think, sanely protect your assets by having them in these alternative stores of value, of which I think gold is the best and the most proven.
And you mentioned you're not an extremist. I talk to people at all ends of the spectrum, some who think fiat currency is going to completely collapse. We're going to be in a Mad Max scenario where you need to have junk silver on hand to be able to barter and everything in between. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on gold allocation. Obviously, it's a very personal question because it depends on each investor, their risk tolerance, what they're looking to accomplish. But I've spoken to some who say you need to get completely as much as possible out of the banking sector. You need to get out of equities, you need to get out of bonds, and you need to get as much as possible into precious metals. I'm wondering where you stand on that spectrum in terms of how much precious metals you think your average investor out there should allocate in their portfolio.
Yeah. So I've thought a lot about this. I've been in the business my whole career, and it is very personal. But I would say I disagree with those that say you need to get entirely out of real estate, entirely out of stocks. I mean, you need those things. Those are productive assets that you can use and that you can benefit from over your lifetime. I would say, though, that the average investor should really question why they wouldn't have 10% in gold as an alternative store of wealth right now, given what's gone on and what's obviously going on with government debt levels and fiat currency financial repression around the world. You've got 4 bull markets all happening at the same time: the economy, residential real estate, the stock market, and the government employment market, which keeps growing. And yet the deficit keeps growing. I mean, this is an issue. It's an issue people need to react to now.
And in your view, is silver still money? Because this is a topic that I've gotten into with some people. They believe it's now purely an industrial commodity, no longer has any monetary characteristics. What are your thoughts there?
Completely disagree. Silver trades more in 2 days than it sells industrially in an entire year. So it's absolutely a trading market, and it's absolutely an investment market, and it's a store of value market. It's just nowhere near the size of the gold market.
Interesting thoughts overall. I do want to get back to Argo Digital Gold now. The alpha launch of Argo is coming up. What message would you like to convey to potential investors considering adding digital gold to their portfolio through Argo's platform?
Yeah, our mission is 2 things really: to do the best that we possibly can to deliver a great product to investors. And the second is to give you, as an investor, what you really need, which is physically backed gold, access to that gold, safe storage and safe custody of that gold. So we want to deliver that in a very nice package. That's our pledge. That's what we're building our company for. And that's the message.
And could you talk to us about how Sprott is involved and your relationship with them when it comes to this platform?
So it would be the Sprott family that we're involved with. The Sprott family owns Sprott Money, which is a bullion storage, bullion bar, physical bullion and coins dealer. And Sprott Money is my partner in this venture, along with other investors. So they've got a long history and a very solid backbone of having been the champions of the gold market now for 30, 40 years. So excited to be partnering with Eric again.
Great. Well, Peter, this has been a fantastic conversation. There will be a link in the description below for those who want to sign up to get access to the Argo Digital Gold platform. As I mentioned, the alpha launch is going to be coming up. And if you sign up with the link below, you'll get a chance to receive some exclusive giveaways for the first 1,000 signups. So be sure to click that link and check it out. And Peter, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Oh, thanks for your time, Jesse. It's been great to be on.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.